Welcome to Creative Brews. I'm Kristen, and this is your weekly dose of creativity, where photography, design, and life come together. So, grab your favorite drink, and let's talk about what's brewing. Hello! Welcome back to another episode. I think we are getting close to, 20 or so episodes? That is amazing! Yes, again, I know I keep saying this, but thank you so much to the ongoing support of this podcast, of my YouTube, of my website, of just everything, really, honestly. So, as you can tell by today's title, we are going to go to the design world. I got asked not too long ago how I come up with the topics and subjects of my episodes, of the different episodes that I've done for my podcast. And let me just tell you, I'm not sure. The only thing I can tell you is that it's all topics that either intrigue me or I've wanted to talk about for a while, or, just throughout the years of learning various different things and just kind of wanting to blab about it. I didn't really sit down and come up with a list of topics, So if you're looking to start your own podcast, like I've said before, just start. That is the best advice that I can tell anybody, is to just start. Whatever it is, just start doing it. If you don't have amazing gear, it doesn't matter. Just start with whatever you have. Along the way, you'll find ways of updating your gear, of getting better gear. Don't be self-conscious, in other words, and don't beat yourself up. But anyways, it's a different subject. So, in college, of course, I went to a community college. I'm not going to say which one just because I don't live near that area anymore, but just out of respect, So I went to a community college. I went for graphic design and photography. I obviously went for something that interests me and that I wanted to do. I was doing these things as hobbies anyway, so, why not go and get a degree? Why not get it in paper? Not set in stone, but set in paper. So, of course, y'all know me. If it's a structured video, I always either have my phone or my iPad is off on the table over there. So I have some things written down, but I wanted to begin this video or this episode with, what if I told you that the font and letters you're using actually have anatomy? What I'll do is I'll try to, well, first off, since it's not a visual, it is a visual podcast for the people who view this on YouTube, but for the people who are just listening, I will do my best to convey what I'm talking about, because it's been a long time since I've taken my typography class. I was unaware of this when I first got into graphic design. I was also highly unaware of font and how many fonts you should be using, how many you shouldn't be using, stuff like that. What fonts to use, what fonts not to use, all that. Obviously, these are not rules. These are not things that I'm like, oh, you cannot do this. Just, calm down, sit down. It's okay. You do you, honey. I'm just kidding. Anyways, I have coffee like I always do because, morning time. So here lately, I've been trying to really bust these out in the morning so that way I can get them done. And usually, every time that I do an episode, if I have time, I try to hurry up and do a couple of episodes. So that way I kind of have them batched. That is really the only way I'm able to take care of a baby. I try to keep the house cleaned up and picked up and also run a business and stuff like that. So yeah, it's a lot going on most of the time. But when you do have the time, I do try and go ahead and sit down and bust out a few episodes just so I can go ahead and have them. So, yeah, so hopefully today's episode is interesting. So yes, the fonts and your typography skills can really make or break the message to whether that be to your customer, whether that be to your client, or if you're just doing it for fun. So typography for me I never really looked at it this way before, but I look at it now as adding to your design. So if you're doing a flyer or a business card, you don't really want the flyer to be, you want it to be informative, but you don't want it to be over informative. And you also don't want it to be loud and obnoxious with the font choices that you use. So typography, I have written down typography matters whether it's in print, digital, branding, logo. What else? That's a good amount of stuff here. So, yeah, it truly matters. If you have a loud business card or flyer, let's just say flyer, because people don't really use business cards that much anymore. And if they do, it's probably like a digital business card, which I don't know if y'all know that, but there's a digital business card that you can have. People can scan it. People can, you can link it to your Instagram, to your portfolio, whatever it is, your email. It's pretty cool. But anyways, it matters if you want to get information across to someone, or, if it's solely a part of your design, you want it to be done in a tasteful way. Not in a distasteful way that nobody can make out what you're saying, or your design just looks crazy. I'll leave it at that. So today I want to try to go through defining typography versus fonts versus typefaces. I want to sort of go through serif versus sans serif. Basically an example that I can give you is think Times New Roman versus Helvetica. I want to explain the font anatomy, the X height, ascenders, descenders, kerning, leading. Trying to think of some other stuff. Hopefully I'm not leaving anything out. This episode, for the people who are watching on YouTube, I'm going to try to have some visual aids up as well. So maybe if you're listening, maybe you can listen and then go over on YouTube and just, take a quick glance. And I did look up some fun facts about typography, the different fonts, Comic Sans, and why Helvetica is everywhere. If you haven't watched, there was a Helvetica documentary on Netflix. I'm not sure if it's still on there, and I can't remember what it was called, but I'm pretty sure it was just called Helvetica. And what was funny and ironic is that they had Helvetica written, of course, in Helvetica. So what they should have done was wrote Helvetica in Pyrus or Comic Sans, and that would have sent the design peeps into space, I'm sure. So why does typography matter? Who cares, right? Obviously, we all care because if you're a visual person, obviously we care because we're reading it. And, you want to be able to read your pill bottle if you take medication, or if you're trying to read a recipe, stuff like that. Like everything, what was I going to say? Basically, what we already do subconsciously, like read labels and stuff like that, we take for granted. So we take it for granted until you can't read something. And then you're like, oh my God, why can I not read this? So it matters because it's about readability, tone, and emotion. Branding, of course. So think of the different brands that you love. Think of 3 different brands that you love. How does their logo look? What is their packaging like if they have packaging? Stuff like that. Like Google. Google is literally just a G. And I'm not really sure what font they used or if it was just designed solely for Google. So that part I'm not sure of, but Google is a clean, friendly, what are some other, yeah, when you think of Google, you think of the G, you think of their colors, and it's just a simple G. that's that's like for the app. I'm just kind of thinking of the app and stuff like that. So let's keep it going. So yeah, you could think of Google versus YouTube, or Google versus, I don't know, Yahoo or something, and look at how different they are. Or let's think of something, Google versus Vogue. So, Vogue is it's got the serifs and all of that. So it's a very elegant, it's almost like the V is modeling. You know what I mean? It's crazy to think of stuff like that, but that's sort of like how I'm kind of trying to convey. And I'm also trying to convey audio to you what I'm talking about. So, some common mistakes that I've seen are that some designers, whether you're just starting or whatever, use way too many fonts, or maybe they're clashing, or maybe one is outweighing the other one. Not considering legibility or readability, ignoring the hierarchy, which is what I was just saying. Maybe one font that they use is outweighing the other one. Maybe they use the thin font with a really big font, and you're going to pay more attention to the bigger font than the thin font because that's just where your eyes automatically go to. Again, you got to think of also psychology. Where does your eye go to first? Typically, you read left to right. So if the bulkier font is over on the left, or if it's over on the right, it doesn't really matter where it's at, your eye is automatically going to go to it because it's very heavy. It's very dominant. So, typography, you can think of it as like I said, a part of your design. It's supposed to add to your design, not take away, So, there's bad kerning. Kerning is the spacing between the letters. But yeah, so there's that. So whenever you are designing a flyer, a poster, whatever, usually, I'm trying to think of something. Usually whatever you want someone to read first is most likely going to outweigh the other font. Also, you never want to use more than 3 fonts. I usually typically use 1 to 2, but I definitely don't use more than 3 different fonts in the same design. That's just something that I try to hold myself to. Now, of course, if you're designing something for a customer and they demand that you use some crazy fonts, you can at least try to get them to consider using some other fonts. Maybe even do a mock-up and say, this is sort of what it would look like. And tell them why. Kind of try to really convey to them why they should go this alternate route versus maybe they want to use. I know a lot of people who don't understand, fonts, who don't really think about fonts, who aren't in the design world. They want to use some kind of signature font or Comic Sans or Pyrus or Lucida. I'm trying to think of some ugly fonts. Those are pretty ugly. Yeah, consider also, like I said, 1 to 2 fonts, 3 max. That's the max that I go to. Consider the hierarchy, the size, the weight, the style. So, again, you want to kind of try to create some kind of visual interest. You don't want to be bland and use the same font for everything. Because if you're trying to get somebody to pay attention to the title of something, if it's the same font as it is in the body, nobody's really going to be paying attention to that, So, you want to stick to quality. Also, if you're offering a service to someone, you also want to make sure that the font is free. It's kind of like, I guess I could kind of compare it to music in a way. But you just want to make sure that what you're using, you can actually sell to someone. Last thing you want to do is sell something to somebody and they either get in trouble or you get in trouble. I typically use Google Fonts. I've seen Pont Pair and what's that other one? Type Wolf, I think, or something like that. I know a lot of people try to use DeFont. When I had my Mac, what was it on there? Now they have it on the cloud, which is really cool. You can use their fonts on the cloud. And actually, I could still use that because I think I might still have my cloud. Anyways, so yeah, I'm going to go into some tips and then we'll go through the differences between serif versus sans serif. Actually, we'll do that first and then the tips and then we'll go to the fun facts. So the difference between serif and sans serif. The definition of serif fonts are serif fonts have small lines, strokes, or feet is really what they're called, and at the ends of each letter. Sorry, my cat's kind of being distracting. She's over there. Some examples of this are Times New Roman, Garmond. I'm trying to think of some other ones. I really like using Garmin. I think that's how you say it. Garmond. I don't know. Georgia. I'm trying to think. I think that's really all the ones that are coming to mind. The style you usually. Sorry, getting some notifications on my phone. So the style of these fonts are pretty classic, elegant, formal, and pretty readable, especially if you're trying to print something. This is the reason why I decided to make this episode. One, because it interests me. I think it's pretty interesting and intriguing to learn about. I don't think many people still know about really typography, but it really matters when you go to print something. So, again, if you're doing a design for someone who plans on printing out the flyer or something like that, right? Like, really think about the design. Is it readable? Are the colors clashing with each other? And stuff like that. My cat is really testing me. Like I was saying, that's the sole reason why I decided to do this episode. I feel like it would help someone out there, maybe a new designer, or maybe someone who's like, I haven't heard of that before. So, yeah, you can use it books, newspapers, formal documents, traditional brands. Okay, sans serif fonts. Okay, sans serif fonts. The definition sans means without, which is something that I did not know. I was not aware of. So these fonts don't have those extra strokes or feet like the serif fonts. I know these words can kind of be sort of confusing. They were for me until actually where I last worked, my corporate job. I really learned a lot more because I started there kind of right out of college, basically. So that style is clean, modern, minimal. It's often legible on screens. Doesn't mean you can't use it in print or books or newspapers, but yeah, typically the serif fonts are just more legible, especially in printing. So some examples of sans serif fonts is Futura, Helvetica, Arial, that's the Windows version of Helvetica. Futura looks a little bit more like futuristic. So, it's typically used on websites, tech brands, signage, mobile apps. So that's the reason why when you're driving, if you look at some signage, maybe the 30 miles per hour sign, that's Helvetica. I bet you I bet you anything that is Helvetica, because a lot of the signage signs that are being used out on the road are Helvetica because it's very clean and crisp. You can see it. It's big. It's in your face. And you don't have, basically those little feet are strokes getting in your way, basically. So, let's see. I think I went through that. So we're going to go over some fun facts because I think it'd be pretty cool. So, the oldest typefaces is over 500 years old. Those are basically Garmin. And hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly. Or Claude Garmin. Garmin typefaces dates back to the 16th century and is still used today, which is another reason why I decided to make this episode, because typography is not something that's being talked about, at least from what I can see. So I figured this would be interesting not only for me to talk about, but for you listening or you watching. So Garmin was made from a French type designer who created it in the 1500s, and it's aged gracefully. I don't know why I put an accent on that, but anyways. Comic Sans was inspired by comic books. Go figure. Wow, I don't think I could really put two and two together. Comic Sans was created in 1994 by Vincent Conner, inspired by The Dark Knight Returns and Watchmen. I did not know that. He designed it for Microsoft, or for a Microsoft product aimed at kids, but it accidentally became the go-to font for passive-aggressive office signs. That's kind of funny. Okay, so here's the third fun fact. Fonts can influence memory. Studies show that people remember information better when it's presented in slightly harder to read fonts, like Sans Forgetta. I did not know that that's a font. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, so I'm so sorry for all the wrong pronunciations. A font designed to be forgotten. Forgotten? It says a font designed to be forget resistant by increasing cognitive processing. I think I'm just getting to the point where I can't read. Like my mouth is not wanting to work with my brain. Number 4, Helvetica took over the world. What did I just say? Created in Switzerland in 1957, Helvetica is used everywhere from subway signs in NYC to corporate logos, Target, American Airlines, Panasonic. I bet you Google is Helvetica. It's probably just been kind of, the G has probably been altered in some sort of fashion. It's so iconic, there's even a documentary about it. Helvetica. So, it might still be on Netflix. I'm not sure. I don't really have Netflix anymore, but you should look it up and see where it's at. See if you can still see it on there. It's from 2007, it says. Number 5, the space between letters has a name. That spacing is called kerning, and poor kerning can create hilarious or embarrassing visual mistakes. Example, click here becoming CL space ICK here. Or worse. Click here. Number 6, there's a font banned in the U.S. government. Wow. The U.S. State Department banned Courier New 12-point for official communications in 2004 because it looked outdated. They switched to Times New Roman instead. Okay, first off, in my opinion, I think Times New Roman it looks outdated. Just saying. Excuse me. I'm trying to hurry up and go through these because I don't want this to be too long. But number 7, fonts have personalities. Designers often say fonts have a voice. For example, Futura is geometric and futuristic. That's what I said. Baskerville is authoritative and trustworthy. In one study, people trusted a fake scientific article more when it was written in Baskerville than in Comic Sans. Obviously. Nobody's really using Comic Sans in their design. And if you are, I really hope it's a joke. But with all of that being said, I think I was going to go through some tips, but I'm probably going to go ahead and end it here, or after the tips, I guess. So, sans serif versus serif. Serifs are like the tiny feet at the ends of letters. And also, too, I'll put up, or I'll try to find some kind of anatomy little imagery to include in the visual version of this episode. Sans serif feels modern, clean, and straightforward, almost like a crisp white shirt, basically, is, I guess, the best way that I can put that. But another tip is if you are a new designer or not, just kind of play around with some different font choices and stuff like that and see what you like, see what works. It really just depends on the soul design and the aesthetic and vibes and stuff that you want to bring across to the viewer or your client or whoever. So, yeah, I hope you found today's episode informative in some sort of way, shape, or form, and hopefully you got something from it. Hopefully you gained something. Sorry that it's pretty hard for me to talk. I guess when I have long episodes and stuff like that, it's kind of just hard for me to like hurry up and get the point across or hurry up and talk because I'll say a word or whatever funny or something like that. But anyways, again, if you found this interesting, please share it. Make sure you subscribe and stuff like that. It means the world. And it also helps me out. And yeah, so I will see you on the next episode. Bye.